A very good morning to all our viewers. You've tuned in live to Newspresso here on Moneycontrol with me, Stacy Pereira. Well, in the next few minutes, we are going to be giving you a lowdown of all that's transpiring across the globe, the top stories that are making headlines, insights from across India, and also the latest trends to give you that edge and keep you informed ahead of the others. So let's get straight to it and bring you all that we're getting from our global dispatch. A good and solid positive handover coming in from Wall Street, where the Dow has finished more than 300 points higher, equating the gains to about 0.9%, whereas the S&P 500 and Nasdaq Composite both advancing nearly about 0.7 and 0.6% respectively. Now, investors are looking ahead to tomorrow's Consumer Price Index or CPI number. I beg your pardon, it will be coming out later tonight, which will perhaps show how inflation is continuing to cool down. Now, economists are estimating that CPI could cool to about 0.3% from May, as well as on the annualized basis, it could be somewhere around 3.1 to 3.2%. Now, whereas the core CPI, that could be seen at somewhere around 0.3% or about 5% on an annualized basis. In the other data that is being tracked, that is the producer price index, that will be out on Thursday, but it will also be giving an inkling to which direction the Federal Reserve will be headed when it makes its meeting, when it meets at the end of July. And European markets too ended on a positive note as investors wait for that data from the US, the Pan-European Stock 600. That one finished about 0.7% higher as almost all sectors nudged into that positive territory. We did see construction and material stocks add about 1.67%, while it was the healthcare stocks that dipped about 0.12%. Now, on the macro front, we did see UK's wage that has grown to hit a joint record high in the last 3 months to the end of May, deepening concerns about what is entrenched with high inflation, while Britain's mortgage rate, that one too has climbed to the highest level since 2008, deepening fears of that catastrophe from the struggling homeowners. And indices in the Asia-Pacific region, those ones seem to be mirroring their peers in the West. Japan's Nikkei 225 has opened in the positive, extending those gains. Hong Kong's Hang Seng as well as Korea's Kospi, all of them trading a bit higher. Although Australia, that index is trading under some bit of pressure. So we could say mixed trade there on in the Asia-Pacific region, but all of them really looking for cues from the West. And looking on the commodities front, well, oil prices have in fact risen by about 2% at a 10-week high this time. Now, the jump can be priced in or attributed to the falling dollar index as well as hopes of a higher demand in the developing world and the supply cuts that we've been seeing from the top exporters. Now, Brent futures rose to about $1.71 to settle above that $97 per barrel mark. This is the highest since April 28th. We also have Brent, which has technically been overbought in that overbought territory for the second time in 3 days. Remember, a weak dollar is the one that makes crude cheaper for holders of other currencies. And to news from the corporate world, where Uber Technologies Chief Financial Officer Nelson Chai is planning to leave the ride-hailing company. Now, Chai informed Uber's CEO Dara Khosrowshahi of his intentions to move on, but the date hasn't been fixed yet. Now, Chai was brought into Uber as the finance chief back in 2018, and he shepherded the company through its IPO in 2019. He has, in fact, overseen multi-billion-dollar worth of deals, including that $2.65 billion acquisition of Postmates, which happened back in 2020, and also the $2.25 billion takeover of Transplace. Now, before Uber, Chai has served as a senior role in the New York Stock Exchange as well as Merrill Lynch and CIT Group. And what could be a big blow, what could be good news, in fact, for Microsoft, this is the $69 billion deal with Activision, which could likely be closed ahead of that July 18 deadline. That's because a US judge has ruled in favor of that record-setting acquisition, setting aside that Federal Trade Commission or FTC's call for a preliminary injunction. Now, Microsoft had said that it stuck to the deal to acquire Activision in order to add mobile games, an area where it has no virtual presence right now. Meanwhile, Activision, which owns some of the immensely popular games like the makers of Candy Crush to Call of Duty, they are the ones in this deal. And if it is executed, this massive deal could catapult Microsoft to become the third slot among the world's biggest video game companies, behind just China's Tencent as well as gaming console rival Sony. Now, the FTA, though, has a chance and can go ahead and appeal this verdict till the midnight of July 14th. Let's get you a quick recap then of all that transpired on Dalal Street. Well, yesterday we did see the Sensex gaining over 270 odd points and the Nifty too just about 80 points higher. But this despite that sharp fall we saw in the banking stocks in that last hour of trade. We did see the Nifty Bank Index lose over 100 points. On the other hand, it was the mid-caps that really outperformed the blue chips, the index gaining over 300 points in trade, whereas it was the auto and FMCG stocks also that really gave support to the indices. But as we said, it is earnings season that kicks off, and which is why IT giants TCS and HCL Tech will kickstart this first quarter earnings for the fiscal today. In fact, it looks to be quite a tepid start, one could say, for the quarter for the IT sector, with multiple headwinds expected to take a toll on that top line. Brokerages have in fact pointed out that there could be a decrease in discretionary spending, wage hikes, as well as the companies prioritizing long-term deals due to this recession fears in North America, and that could have an impact notably on TCS as well as the other Tier 1 companies in this, especially on their margins. We also have HCL Tech, which will be declaring its results. Now, their net profit too is likely to decline on a sequential basis. But we'll be getting you all those result-related news as and when it trickles in today. We also had the 50th meeting of the GST Council that was held in Delhi yesterday, and the Council has agreed to go ahead and impose a 28% GST on the full value of online gaming, horse racing as well as casinos. This could be a big blow to the industry because the tax will now take effect after amendments that will be made to the law. Now, this has been quite a thorny issue, one could say, for some time now, because there was a back and forth. The Council had gone ahead and set up a group of ministers to give in their report and find consensus, and now they have reached that consensus to go ahead and impose that 28% tax. The stakeholders obviously are calling this a killer blow to the industry, but FM Sitaraman has gone ahead and said that the government doesn't intend to target any industry as per se. Now, among the other decisions that were taken by the Council, we did see the rates being lowered for 4 different items, whereas cancer drugs, those were among the exemptions that were made, so they will pay no GST going ahead. They also, the decision coming in from the Appellate Tribunal, that will perhaps get into functioning by the end of this fiscal. Let's listen in to all that the Finance Minister had to say.
There will be some amendment to the GST law to include online gaming also in it. Online gaming, horse racing and casinos will be taxed. They will be taxed at 28%, each one, and they will be taxed on full face value.
We are definitely going to be seeing the repercussions of that. A couple of stocks, Nazara, Tech, Delta Corp, all of them going to have quite a bit of an impact because of this news. But moving on then to other developments that are happening across India, where in the past few weeks we have been seeing quite a bit of violence transpire in Manipur, and during a hearing of this case in the Supreme Court, that has directed the Manipur government to consider suggestions put forth by the petitioners. Now, on July 10th, the court said that it cannot take control of the law and order from the elected government, but the court has excluded taking any call on security measures, as it says it comes under the purview of the army law. And the Manipur government has also gone ahead and formed a committee to cater to the needs of the farmers affected by these protests. The committee will ensure safety of farmers and also bolster the agricultural produce. Now, while more than 142 people were killed due to this violence that transpired over weeks in Manipur. What all is making headlines, and when it comes to the latest trends, let's tell you. Well, Ahead of Prime Minister Modi's visit to France, the Indian Tri-Services contingent held a practice session, and the Tri-Services contingent of the IAF is the one that's going to be performing at France's Bastille Day on the 14th of July. This is also considered as France's National Day. Now, we have a contingent of 269 members of the Tri-Services which will march alongside their French counterparts, and Modi will also be attending this year's parade as the guest of honor. He has been invited by France's Emmanuel Macron, the president there. So we are going to see our services, all of those personnel, along with the French army personnel, all of them take that parade commemorating France's National Day. And in other news, well, as the Indian team gets ready, the cricket team I'm talking about gears up for that test series against West Indies, which will kick off today. Here's something fun that transpired in the practice session. We did see Captain Rohit Sharma, who is leading the team this time around, take the role of a reporter and also pose a couple of questions to Ajinkya Rahane, his teammate. Here's a look at how that conversation went on.
Obviously, आप इंडिया के लिए कप्तानी करते हैं. How do you look at this series? WTC का नया साइकिल है.
इस एज में मतलब मैं अभी भी यंग हूँ यार. अभी यहाँ पे रोहित शर्मा जो रोल देंगे उसको मैं फुलफिल करने की कोशिश करूंगा.
आप अपना एक्सपीरियंस, आप वेस्ट इंडीज काफी बार आ चुके हो, आपने इस विकेटों पे काफी क्रिकेट खेला है, काफी रन भी बनाया. तो जो नए लड़के आए हैं उनको आप किस तरीके से उनके साथ बातचीत करना चाहोगे और उनको क्या बताना चाहोगे, क्या करना चाहिए?
वेस्ट इंडीज में मेरा मैसेज सारे यंगस्टर्स के लिए और सभी के लिए यही है कि यहाँ पे पेशेंस रखना बहुत जरूरी है एज अ बैट्समैन.
यहाँ पे
Well, Rohit Sharma definitely giving us a feel of what it feels like to go out and put out questions to these guys, but definitely a lighter moment there for that team before they get into that crucial match. And moving on then, if you were a Bollywood fan, and you definitely must have watched Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara at least once, we assume, well, you will remember the scene where the three protagonists go ahead for that skydive. Now, it seems like Farhan Akhtar did some reminiscing and went skydiving actually, and went ahead to share that reel on social media, asking and captioning that, saying, "Where are the boys?" Now, he did go and do this skydive along with co-actor Barbara Holzer, who accompanied him there. Farhan Akhtar is, remember Zoya Akhtar's Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara is an adventure film that released almost 13 years ago. So giving us that nostalgia, but quite nice to see Farhan Akhtar actually go ahead and do some of those adventure sports. And in cues that you should be watching for today, well, we do have the NATO summit, which is underway. We're seeing world leaders are set to discuss the ongoing Russia invasion of Ukraine, as well as Ukraine and Sweden's prospects of becoming members. We already do know that Sweden now has been given that entry because of Turkey. Then in other news back home here, we do have the Union Cabinet, which will be meeting in Delhi at 10:30 a.m. today. So we're going to have to see how that transpires, especially because we did have the GST meet as well. So a lot of that to be taking in, the rate rationalization that happened. And not to forget, a recap to give you, we'll be getting you all those tech results that are coming in from TCS as well as HCL Tech. So don't go anywhere, because right here on Moneycontrol, we'll be getting you all those latest updates. But with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Newspresso. Hope this dose was useful and informative and gives you that kickstart of the day. Don't forget to come back tomorrow, same place, same time, for your fresh shot of Newspresso. From everyone putting this show together, thanks so much for tuning in.